All right, so let's dive into something that's been kind of making a lot of noise lately.
Yeah.
Lauren Sanchez's outfit
Oh, yeah.
at Donald Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
We all know inaugurations are, these really formal events.
Right.
So her choice definitely raised a few eyebrows.
For sure.
You shared a Fox News article with me that details
Mm-hmm.
all the reactions and compares her style to Melania Trump's.
It is pretty interesting how clothing can just become like this huge conversation starter,
Right.
especially at an event like this.
Yeah.
Sanchez's outfit seems to have like touched a nerve,
Yeah.
sparked a debate about what is like appropriate attire
Right.
at a political occasion.
Okay, so help me unpack this a little bit.
Sure.
The article describes Sanchez wearing a white Alexander McQueen pantsuit.
Uh-huh.
We're talking fitted blazer with satin trim,
Okay.
a very daring low-cut V-neck,
Mm-hmm.
and those wide-leg trousers that are so popular right now.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. She skipped the traditional blouse,
Mm-hmm.
and she went with a white lace bustier.
Wow. Okay.
Add a fuzzy coat to handle that January chill.
Yeah.
A smoky eye nude lip gloss, a sleek updo, and bam,
Yeah.
you've got a look that is turning heads.
Yeah.
The article even mentions the price tag of the outfit.
Oh, really?
At least $1,800.
That price tag, adds a really interesting layer to the conversation.
Yeah.
It brings up this idea of wealth and how it's perceived, especially at an event,
Right.
like an inauguration,
Yeah.
where economic inequality is often a hot topic.
Yeah, it's front and center.
Yeah.
And the internet definitely noticed.
Oh, I'm sure.
The article highlights some pretty strong reactions on social media with people calling her outfit inappropriate
Oh,
and using phrases like put them away
Oh,
and
oh.
show some class and dignity.
okay.
It seems like some people felt she crossed a line.
It's important to kind of pay attention to the specific language used in those criticisms. Words like inappropriately dressed or comments about her bra being visible,
Yeah.
along with comparisons to a nightclub,
Right.
all suggest a perceived violation of what some consider acceptable for a political event.
Totally. It definitely created a very stark contrast
Mm-hmm.
with Melania Trump's style,
Right.
who opted for a much more understated look.
Understated, yes.
She wore a navy Adam Lips ensemble,
Okay.
a tailored silk wool coat, matching pencil skirt, an ivory silk crepe blouse,
Ah.
black leather gloves,
Wow.
and a wide-brimmed hat.
Very classic and elegant.
Very classic, yeah.
That contrast is key.
Yeah, it highlights the spectrum of what's considered acceptable attire
Right.
for women at these events and how much societal expectations
Yeah.
influence those judgments.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, are the standards different for
Yeah.
women in different roles, like a first lady,
Right.
versus the partner of a prominent figure?
That's such a good point. It's like there's this unspoken dress code,
Yeah,
but the rules are really blurry,
right.
especially as times change and fashion evolves.
And then there's the whole Mark Zuckerberg incident
Oh, yeah. What was that?
mentioned in the article.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was caught seemingly looking at Sanchez's chest,
Oh, no.
which of course sparked a flurry of memes and jokes online.
Oh, I bet.
While that incident might seem humorous on the surface,
Yeah.
it does bring up this larger issue of
Yeah.
how women's bodies are often perceived and scrutinized
Right.
in public settings.
Yeah.
It points to the double standard that women often face, being judged both for their attire
Uh-huh.
and then for the reactions it elicits from others.
Oh, for sure.
The article also mentions that Sanchez had actually worn this same outfit before
Oh, really?
at the New York Times Dealbook event back in December.
Okay.
She even shared a selfie on Instagram.
Wow. So this wasn't a one-off fashion choice for her.
No, it seems like it's part of her personal style.
That element of intentionality is important.
Yeah,
It suggests that her choice wasn't a mistake or an oversight.
right.
It was a deliberate decision that reflects her personal style.
And maybe even a willingness to challenge conventional norms.
And speaking of challenging norms,
Yeah.
the article quotes Summer Ann Lee, a presidential fashion historian.
Okay.
She told Newsweek she gasped when she saw the outfit
Oh my God.
and even said this revealing lingerie moment has got to be a first in inauguration fashion history.
Her reaction as a fashion historian is really interesting.
Yeah.
She understands the historical context of inauguration fashion.
Right.
So her gasp isn't just about shock value.
Right.
It suggests that Sanchez's outfit,
Yeah.
whether intentionally or not, marks a departure from the norm.
It definitely feels like a statement, planned or not.
Yeah.
And to give you a little more context,
Okay.
the inauguration was also a gathering of tech giants.
Oh, really?
The article mentions Jeff Bezos, of course,
Of course.
but also Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai, and even Elon Musk.
Wow.
It was like a who's who of the tech world,
Yeah.
all rubbing shoulders with the incoming administration. That context is crucial. It positions Sanchez and Bezos within a particular power structure,
Dang.
interacting with political figures and other influential individuals.
Yeah.
Their attire, especially compared to the more traditional choices of others,
Right.
could be seen as a subtle statement about their own position and influence.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to say something.
Yeah.
Just to fill you in on their background,
Okay.
Bezos and Sanchez have been dating for 5 years and got engaged back in May 2023. Sanchez even hinted on the Today Show that wedding preparations are underway.
Now that adds another layer of intrigue.
Yeah.
It positions Sanchez not just as Bezos' partner,
Right.
but as his soon-to-be wife, potentially stepping into a more prominent public role.
Right.
So her fashion choices take on an added significance, almost like a preview of her future style and persona.
It's like her clothing is speaking a language,
Yeah.
communicating something beyond just aesthetics. But what is that message exactly?
Yeah.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
We have to consider the different interpretations
Might
here,
I?
and intended and unintended messages, and what these fashion choices mean in such a politically charged setting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we're kind of decoding this visual language. And fashion at these like high-profile events is rarely just about like the clothes themselves.
You're right. It's more about the message they send, the conversations they spark,
Exactly.
and how they play into the bigger stories surrounding the event.
Each detail, from like the cut and the color to the designer.
Right.
And even the accessories can be like
Yeah.
interpreted and analyzed for its potential meaning.
Totally.
It becomes a form of nonverbal communication, whether it's intentional or not.
So in this case, what might Sanchez's outfit be saying?
Right.
Is it a power move? A rebellion against tradition?
Yeah.
A simple expression of personal style? Or maybe it's a combination of all three.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
There's no one right answer. It's open to interpretation,
Right.
which is partly why it's created such a buzz.
Right.
Some might see it as empowering,
Yeah.
like a woman owning her sexuality and challenging expectations. Others might view it as inappropriate, like a distraction from the seriousness of the occasion.
And that's where those societal expectations we talked about come into play.
For sure.
What's considered appropriate or empowering can really change depending on cultural norms, individual perspectives, and even the specific context of the event.
Exactly. And it's worth thinking about how those expectations might differ for men and women.
Oh, totally.
Would a man wearing a similarly revealing outfit at an inauguration face the same level of scrutiny?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah, for sure.
Feels like there's a double standard sometimes.
Often. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to think about this in the context of Sanchez's upcoming role as Bezos' wife.
Right?
She's going to be in the public eye even more.
Yeah.
And her fashion choices will likely continue to be analyzed and debated.
It's almost unavoidable.
Right.
And it raises this important question.
Yeah.
Do women in positions of power, whether through marriage or their own accomplishments, have a different set of fashion rules to navigate?
Are they expected to conform to a certain standard of modesty?
Right.
Or do they have the freedom to express themselves through their clothing without being unfairly judged?
These are complex questions with no easy answers, but it's a conversation worth having.
For sure.
Especially as more women break barriers and step into influential roles.
I agree. And I think Sanchez's outfit at the inauguration has inadvertently sparked that conversation. Right. Whether you agree with her choice or not.
Yeah.
It's got people talking about fashion, power, and societal expectations in a way that feels relevant and timely.
That's what's so fascinating about this deep dive. It's not just about analyzing one outfit.
Right.
It's about exploring the deeper implications of clothing choices and how they intersect with gender power and our evolving social landscape.
It's like a window into the cultural conversations happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what our listener thinks about all of this.
Yeah.
What stands out to you? Do you think Sanchez's outfit was a bold statement?
Yeah.
A fashion faux pas?
Right.
Or something else entirely?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your take.
Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah.
It's all about interpretation
Right.
and understanding the different perspectives at play.
Uh-huh.
But by having this discussion, we can start to unpack the complexities of fashion
For sure.
and its role in society.
And who knows, maybe we'll even challenge some of those unspoken rules along the way.
Maybe.
After all, fashion is about expressing ourselves right. But it's also about understanding the message we're sending.
Sure.
And how it might be received by others, especially in a world where every outfit has the potential to go viral.
That's a great point. It's a delicate balance between personal expression and social awareness.
Right.
And it's something we all navigate in our own way.
Yeah.
But by looking at high-profile examples like Sanchez's inauguration attire, we can gain a deeper understanding of the nuances at play.
Let's zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
We've got this convergence of politics, tech, and fashion all happening at the inauguration.
Yeah.
You've got these incredibly powerful figures from different worlds coming together.
Yeah.
And their clothing choices become part of that narrative.
It's a visual representation of power dynamics, social hierarchies, and cultural trends all rolled into one.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's generated so much discussion online shows just how much emphasis we as a society place on appearances and how they intersect with these larger systems.
It's like clothing becomes a form of currency.
Yeah.
A way to signal status, affiliation, or even rebellion.
Right.
And in the age of social media, where every image can be instantly shared and scrutinized, those signals are amplified even further.
And that brings us to an interesting question.
Okay.
In a world where appearances matter so much, what does it mean to dress for power?
Right.
Is it about conforming to established norms, pushing boundaries, or finding a balance somewhere in between?
It's a question worth asking ourselves whether we're attending a high-profile event or just navigating our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Because even if we don't realize it, our clothing choices are sending a message.
It's up to us to decide what that message is and how we want to be perceived.
Yeah.
It's about being mindful, intentional, and perhaps even a little bit playful with our wardrobe.
Because at the end of the day, fashion should be fun.
Right. It should be a way to express ourselves and connect with others. But it's also a powerful tool that can be used to make a statement.
Right.
Challenge norms and even start important conversations. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about dissecting one outfit.
Right.
It's about exploring the broader cultural significance of fashion and how it reflects the complexities of our world.
Speaking of complexity,
yeah,
we haven't even touched upon the potential impact of Sanchez's Hispanic heritage.
But that's an excellent point.
On the public's perception of her attire.
How might cultural backgrounds and expectations further influence the way her outfit is interpreted and judged?
It's a layer we definitely need to unpack.
For sure.
Because fashion is never just about the clothes themselves.
Right.
It's about the person wearing them, their background, their identity, and how all of those factors intersect with the broader social context.
And it's within those intersections that we often find the most intriguing and thought-provoking insights.
So let's keep digging, shall we?
Let's do it.
There's still so much to uncover here.
Yeah.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here, uncovering more and more nuance with each point. And going back to something you mentioned earlier about power dynamics, I'm curious to hear more about how that relates to this story.
Well, consider Sanchez's position. She's the partner of one of the wealthiest men in the world, which inherently places her within a certain power structure. Her attire, particularly when compared to the more traditional choices at the inauguration, could be interpreted as a subtle assertion of that power, a way of differentiating herself and making a statement.
It's almost as if she's saying, I don't have to conform to the same expectations.
Yeah, precisely. And that can be read in a variety of ways. Some might perceive it as bold or even disrespectful, while others might see it as a form of empowerment, a rejection of conventional norms.
And that ties into the criticism about her outfit being inappropriate. It raises the question of who gets to decide what's appropriate, especially for women in positions of power. Is it about societal expectations, cultural norms, or something else altogether?
It's a complex combination of all those factors. And it's worth examining how those expectations might evolve as more women break barriers and hold influential positions. Are they held to a different standard than their male counterparts? Do they have more leeway to express themselves through their clothing choices, or are they subject to even greater scrutiny?
These are important questions to consider, and the answers aren't always straightforward. This whole discussion reminds me of something I read about the history of women's fashion and how it's often been a tool of both oppression and liberation.
Absolutely. Take corsets, for example. They were initially seen as restrictive garments enforcing a certain ideal of femininity. But over time, they've also been reclaimed as symbols of power and sensuality. It all comes down to context and how they're worn.
So it seems like fashion is this ever-evolving language, and the meaning of each garment can shift depending on who's wearing it and how they choose to present it.
That's precisely what makes it so captivating to study. It reflects our cultural values, societal norms, and even our individual identities. And it's constantly changing, adapting to the times.
But how does this all relate to us, the everyday people who aren't attending presidential inaugurations or walking the red carpet? Do these conversations about fashion and power really matter in our lives?
Absolutely. Because whether we're conscious of it or not, we all participate in this visual language of fashion. The clothes we wear, the way we style them, the brands we choose, they all convey a message about who we are and how we want to be perceived.
It's like our personal brand.
Yeah.
And just like any brand, it's important to be deliberate about the message we're sending.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean we need to overanalyze every outfit or become fashion experts, but it does mean being aware of our choices and how they might be interpreted.
It's about striking that balance between expressing ourselves and being mindful of social cues, recognizing that our clothing choices can have an impact, however subtle, on the world around us.
And sometimes those choices can even spark important conversations and challenge the status quo. Just look at all the buzz generated by Lauren Sanchez's inauguration attire.
She may not have set out to ignite a debate about fashion and power, but her outfit has certainly got people thinking, and that's never a bad thing.
It reminds us that even something as seemingly superficial as clothing can hold deeper meaning and reflect the complexities of our society. And it encourages us to engage in these discussions, to question our assumptions, and to explore the ways in which fashion can be both a powerful tool and a fascinating reflection of our world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Lauren Sanchez's inauguration attire, I think the biggest takeaway is that fashion is more than just fabric and thread. It's a language, a form of expression, and a reflection of who we are and the world we live in.
I completely agree. And whether we're talking about a presidential inauguration or our everyday lives, our clothing choices matter. They tell a story, and it's up to us to make sure it's a story we're proud to tell.
And that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this fascinating deep dive into the world of fashion, power, and societal expectations.
It's been a pleasure.